Hey, what's up guys? DiplexHeated again. Welcome back to Men of War Assault Squad 2 and the Great War Realism Mod. Super excited to be back with another battle. Hope everyone has had a good weekend. So, we happen to be on this really weird Canada versus the United States of America theme right now. It's gonna pass after this video, but this happened by complete chance. Like, this is a battle I prepared for many weeks ago, and a few days ago, during the weekend, I just decided to pit two nations up against each other in a very realistic combat simulation, and they happened to be Canada and the United States. So this is by no means like a purposeful theme or, you know, subject. It's just complete chance. But anyway, guys, the year is 1912. We're using the Great War Realism Mod, so what we are going to enjoy today is what if the War of 1812 happened in 1912, exactly 100 years after it actually occurred. So we got a Canadian base here on the border between Canada and the United States. US troops are about to attack this. It's more of a fort, actually. The war, or the declaration of war, has already happened, so the Canadians kind of know what's coming, but the first shots have not been fired yet. We have a company here garrisoning this fort. We've got guns on the walls, we have machine guns, and all kinds of awesome things. In fact, this flag right here, I custom made for this video. Yeah, it didn't take me more than like 10 minutes to do this, but I put some dirt on it and everything, you know, to make it look a bit gritty and real, not all too shiny like a PNG image from Wikipedia. And we got the British flag next to it, because at this time, believe it or not, Canada was actually more British than Canadian. Like, you know, they got their first official flag adopted sometime after World War II. Was it 1965 or something? And they didn't even have their own sovereignty, or, yeah, I suppose, or like full independence until, I think, either after World War I or shortly before World War II or something like that. So this year, Canada is highly British, I must say. Highly British. So, the uniforms aren't particularly specifically Canadian. I've gone with the British infantry, but for the US side of things, I've had to customize them a tiny bit, because there are no, like, early war US infantry in this game, because they entered World War II in 1917, or at least that's when they set foot in Europe. So I've had to kind of just like skip the helmet, give them this hat, which I think is similar to the hat they actually used before they adopted the helmet. Kind of like that, you know, like forest ranger, park ranger hat. That's what I've been able to tell looking at all the pictures. I had to take an English one and recolor it. I had to repaint it. It was all like super bright beige for like the desert. Now it's more dark green. So we got some American infantry, and we got American artillery, and all kinds of cool shit. Even a flag, even two. We have one battery here on the right side aiming at that fort, and we have another battery here on the other side also zeroed in on that fort. I mean, there's no complications here. It's a straight up battle. There's going to be thousands of Americans attacking this fort. We might even see some awesome Canadian reinforcements come in by truck, perhaps a few minutes after the actual attack has begun. I think this is going to be a brutal battle. Lots of explosions and casualties. I hope you guys will enjoy this 1912, the War of 1912 between the Canadians and the Americans. But yeah, or the, yeah. I mean, because this isn't actually a Canadian flag. This is a Canadian ensign. Yes, so that's what it's called. So anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and start this battle. I think it is going to be a good one. Oh, lots of artillery going back and forth between the two sides. The assault has begun. American troops will now attempt to cross the river. We do have a few shallow points, as well as a bridge connecting the two land masses here across the river. One Canadian gun has been brought down. We have another one out here by the roadblock, firing at the US battery in the distance. How cool is this? By the way, the map is from Born in the Fire America mod. Beautiful map, and it works really, really well with a scenario like this, so I'm super happy. The garrison has definitely kicked into full effect now. All the troops have been rallied and organized along the walls. We've got troops even repairing this field gun. That's amazing. Lots of Canadian rifles here on the walls. American artillery just pounding this right side. We're gonna move across this small river. We're gonna look at some of the US troops who have now started crossing the river using some of the more shallow points. We haven't seen any troops cross the two bridges yet. But I think that's because the Canadians are very strong in that area. They do have a position, a kind of like a roadblock supported by artillery, so it's going to be easier for the Americans to cross here and attack the fort from this flank. But it's no easy feat. There are so many Canadian guns on top of that wall, all along the barricades. Love hearing that whistle. Move it, move it! So they're using this rock side as protection. We have some troops crawling up, getting closer. We have a Canadian Stokes mortar firing away as well, doing good damage to the American attackers. Let's have a look here on the other side. Let's move back to the Canadian perspective. Have a look here at the infantry covering the bridges by the roadblock, which has been hastily fortified with a few, I don't know, is this like a picket fence? Barricades, you know? Logs and rocks toppled over each other to provide cover for the infantry behind. Look at the amount of American troops on the other side. We have Canadian mortar right now focusing on this left side because I'm seeing a few impacts there in the water. That's going to get a few Americans brought to the bottom of that river. But the assault is nowhere near over. Look at the fort from a distance. One of the Canadian artillery guns is still operational. I think the Americans have lost this battery. They've seemed to have lost the crew behind all the guns. The artillerymen are actually dead. So this battery has ceased firing for now. The guns on the left flank, I think, are still operational. We're going to move over there quickly. I had like a pound of cake, so I'm a little, not slow, but I felt it right now. That pound of cake just hit the bottom of my belly. And it just lowered me, like, boom. But I'm not lowered one bit, not, you know, not mentally. Just cake. That's all I gotta say. Anyway, this battery's functioning, but they have no obvious targets right now. It looks like the walls are starting to be cleansed out. No, in fact, that's highly inappropriate to say. In fact, there's plenty of rifles up here still acting and fighting the American attackers. We see the Americans now coming over this crest. Beautiful. The two Vickers machine guns are still operational. They're keeping a good eye on the bridge crossing. In fact, they have range of the American battery, so they can be firing at the infantry all the way back there in cover. Oh, yes! Look at this! Canadian reinforcements arriving. In a few, I think mostly civilian trucks. That's awesome. The Canadians are still holding the fort. Reinforcements has just arrived. That's awesome. Let's find some more artillerymen here for the guns on the American side. This one's actually knocked out. That one we can crew. Same goes for this one. So we're gonna find some able-bodied American troops to crew these guns. By now, reservists would have arrived here to crew the guns. You always want more crew available. This is also a beautiful view of just the battery firing in the distance. Look at this view. I mean, you gotta credit the map. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. Huge explosions here now on the left side of the fort. The Canadian gun has been brought down, but the machine guns are still spinning. One Vickers is down, so the Americans are making progress. I think we might see the second one fall anytime now. It feels like the American troops are starting to get closer now. They've captured this kind of this middle strip of land here in between the split of the river. And they're getting dangerously close to the final bridge. Oh, huge explosion by the right side of that fort. That was insane. Just saw the whole wall go up in the air with sandbags and casualties alike. The first American soldier is across. An officer, in fact, leading the charge here, followed by several American troops. So the Americans are now officially across here on the right side. The reinforcements did arrive in time, though, so they're going to be nicely spread out along the walls and continue the fight. They've bolstered the defenses. Big explosions here on the right side. Oh, man. The Americans are getting closer, but I think the Canadian mortar is holding them back here on the right side of the fort, the American left flank. We have a few Canadians skirmishing outside the fort as well to prevent the Americans from flanking around and attacking the fort from a more vulnerable point. Look at them nicely lined up here. This is amazing. Like, sometimes the AI shines, sometimes they just position themselves beautifully and, you know, make a bunch of sense. Just like here. That's awesome. Looks like we have one soldier who must have fallen off the wall as it was hit by US artillery. He's gonna crawl his way back around. He's wounded. That was brutal. I feel like the Canadians are starting to get off the wall now as more and more Americans are getting closer and closer. Some have found their way to the walls by crawling up using the stones as cover. How's this side looking? We have troops just fighting face to face up here by the wall. That's insane. That's crazy. Absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah, this wall has been entirely destroyed. Some of the sandbags are still hanging. Not so much standing in this case. But they shouldn't really be too much of an issue here for the Americans, who might just use this entrance to get into the fort and fight the Canadians inside. Yes, they're going to crawl up, get on top of the walls, and then get into the fort from behind. We're going to see some fighting on the inside of the fort right now. This is pretty intense. Some Canadians have abandoned their positions and are retreating, which I can fully understand right now. There's a lot of American troops coming in. Deadly impacts by the mortar, who is right now firing dangerously close. Pretty much just aimed straight up in the air. We got US troops getting into the fort right now, though, from the front. We have a stream of them coming in using this entrance. I think the other sides of this fort is impenetrable due to all the barricades and, you know, debris everywhere. It's practically impossible to climb up this wall. All the spikes are preventing them from doing so. But US troops have now gotten into the fort. There's a few Canadians remaining, continuing the fight. We have one soldier up here on the wall. We probably have a few more here among the buildings. We do indeed. So the fight is not over. We see American troops dropping there on the left side. But many Canadians have retreated out of the fort. Some are holding this entrance, fighting the Americans on the right side as well. This is interesting. With the whistles still being blown. Oh no, a few Canadian soldiers have been cornered off here. They're still fighting. They really have nowhere to go. They'd have to jump across or over the wall. This guy's gonna make a run for it. He's gonna try and get out. He's got a wounded friend who's crawling out behind him. The mortar has finally been knocked out. No, not quite yet. It's still acting. We still have a soldier on it. Continuously dropping shells atop the Americans coming into the fort. That one, was that a grenade or was that his own shell landing right above him? Because that was a pretty nicely aimed shot. But he's gonna be brought down. And the final Canadians are being pushed out. That was actually the last of the Americans. No more waves after it, and it just worked. What a crazy battle. In fact, I think there's probably a few hundred remaining, but I wanted to keep it realistic. I wanted to really throw some bodies in here. And if you guys want to see some sickening casualties, have a look at this. We're going to mark the Canadian casualties in yellow, and we're going to mark the American casualties in red. And it's just, you can't even compare this. It's crazy. I mean, we had about 100 and 120 Canadians defending this fort today. Perhaps an additional 40 with all the reinforcements. But, I mean, we've probably seen an entire battalion of US infantry attack today. 1,000 men. Many guns have been brought down. This battery here on the left side did well. The battery here on the right side, not so well. And it took a while until I decided to recrew these guns simply for gameplay reasons, just to make sure it's somewhat realistic instead of just having some random soldier nearby instantly crew the gun. So hopefully you appreciate the thought in that. But what an insane battle. I had a blast recording this. This was awesome. I want to use more of these Born in the Fire America maps for this Great War Realism mod. I do have a special treat coming out soon, which is going to involve America during the early 1900s as well. But until next time, that will remain a secret. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys soon again. Ciao.